Warning: this podcast may contain discussions that some may find offensive or triggering. Listener discretion is advised.
Hi, welcome to the Gavin Tucker Show, Thursday, 22nd of Feb. Shawn, Deysel, it has been a long time since I've seen you in this part of the world.
It has.
So on the show today, we've got something quite interesting. It's kind of like a red rag to a bull, I guess some would say. Are you at all familiar with this concept of red pill philosophy?
Red pool.
Red pill, like
the red pill.
like your favorite movie, The Matrix.
Oh, yeah, the red pill go down the rabbit hole thing.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So in the dating world, or the world of courtship, if you will, there's this whole concept of red pill dating.
Yeah.
And there are a couple of people who host channels. Jordan Peterson, who's kind of a well-known public speaker, debater, philosopher, and psychologist, he talks about this from time to time. And then also there are a couple of YouTube channels, and I think the one's called Fresh and Fit or something like that. And on these shows, these guys talk about red pill philosophy, and it's basically guidance. So for guys who are young and up and coming, let's say 18 and 19, and you're kind of entering that peak of your life, what to look out for insofar as dating, and especially with women.
Oh.
Was there an equivalent to this in your, like when you were, let's say, 20, 21?
Sure. That's a long time ago. Yes, there was. There was, but it was at a much younger age. Remember, we married real early. When you turned 18 and you went off to military service, you were literally asked, are you going to marry her? Whatever girlfriend you had at the time. Yeah. Because the big thing was you get married as quick as possible. Well, you first get your car, you get your house. Are you going to marry her? Then you get kids. My son was born when I was 22. My firstborn was born.
Good God.
Yeah. So, my wife was 20. By the time the second one was born, she was 23. I was 25.
Yeah.
So we got that out of the way.
These days, women don't think of having kids till their ovies are fraught.
Yeah. You
Just
see
about.
now, those days, you also had those red flags.
Yeah.
You had that thing of, be careful of that. Ooh, no, don't go there. You don't pick up a good girl in a nightclub.
Which is true, by the way. That's a saying that's come down the ages, and I still maintain I've never met any girl in a club that it landed up going the distance or even a year.
Yeah. That was a big rule then.
Yeah.
If you meet in a bar club, don't expect miracles.
Yeah. Never go for the girl who's on top of the table dancing. She's not the one to put the ring on. She's the one you take home for the night, but you don't.
She'll become a good friend. That's for sure.
Yeah,
but
that friend you call on a Friday night when you're going through a bit of a drought.
Yeah,
and you need something.
And you need something. You need someone to go out for sushi.
Yes, exactly. You'll pay for the meal. She'll reward you in other ways.
Yeah.
So in the red pill sphere, there are a couple of signs that they say that men who are, even if they're older men, should always adhere to, and certain kinds of women that you should give a wide berth to. You stay away from these.
Yeah.
And the first one actually took me by surprise. Any girl who's over the age of 30 and has never been married before. And when I heard this for the first time, I thought, but I know a lot of hotties who are 30. 31, 35 even.
Maybe they just haven't found love.
Maybe they haven't. Maybe the universe has been cruel. But then you think a little bit longer about them. And you think, hang on, this person I know is somewhat psychotic.
Yeah.
So
there's a reason why.
Absolutely. So that's exactly how it goes. A lot of these, the alpha chads in the world. So the alpha chad is a term that they use for, like the man.
The guys I hated at school.
Exactly, those sort of guys. Now, those ones will always snap up the really good quality woman at the very beginning. So they'll catch her when she's in her very prime, sort of 19, 20, when they're like 21, 22. And they'll date her for 3 or 4 years. They'll get engaged and they'll settle down. They'll get married and they'll have kids. And that's the good one.
So what you're saying is if she's 30 plus, stay the hell away. There's a reason why she's not in a solid relationship.
So according to the red pill lads out there, they are quick to say that these women have all been had. So it's not to say that men haven't given them a chance. They've had plenty of chances. The only difference is that they've showed in one way or another that they're not what you call marriage material.
Yeah.
So they either To
Narcissistic.
career, narcissistic is a very big thing with both men and women, by the way. It's not just ladies here. So, narcissism is quite big. These days as well, a lot of women are hyper concerned about their careers.
Yeah.
And a lot of them, have ambitions to become CFOs of companies or financial directors or even CEOs. And then when they get into their 40s, they look back and they go, fuck. I've spent my entire life in this office, and I haven't really been a woman. I haven't been a mother.
I need to settle down. I've made my mark. I've made my money. I'm stable. Yeah. Now you want to look for a man?
And at that point, obviously, it's way too late.
And that's actually another red pill.
What's that? Working?
No, a single guy out there. If you're dating a girl and she's a CEO or a director or someone in a high-powered position, and you just a normal dude on the street, would you really like to get involved with a girl like that? You are walking into a controlled relationship.
So just to bring this up to where we are at the moment, the 2023 global stats indicate that women initiate divorce 75% of the time.
I heard that as well. Yeah.
That's just ordinary women. So I'm talking about a case where the man is the breadwinner. He goes to work. The wife maybe has a job. Maybe she's what do you call the lady who answers the phone? Receptionist. Or maybe she doesn't have it. Maybe she stays at home. Even in that case, they still initiate divorce 75% of the time. This is where it gets interesting. When a woman is college educated, as they call them in America, and especially if she has a better paying job than her male counterpart.
Or a bigger responsibility job.
Yeah. Then it goes up from 75% to 90%. Gents.
Consider yourself fired.
Just let that sink in for a moment. 90% of all divorces, especially in cases where your wife out-earns you, is initiated by a woman. It is a frightening stat. It really is. So
it's not to say it's not going to work. It's just a very small percentage that will work. Imagine coming home and being put on performance review by your wife.
And also, you see, that's also such a masculine trait to do, though. So I was having a chat to a friend of mine, and we were talking about the whole thing about why marriages tend not to work these days. And one of the other things, now this is not really so much to do with the red pill, but this is more about how women's personalities have evolved. And I think it might have to do something with feminism. I'm not saying this is a fact, but I think a lot of women these days are adopting very masculine traits. So they like to be argumentative. For no bloody reason, they'll challenge you on everything.
I think that's in the DNA.
Yeah, well, I suppose so. There are a lot of women that inherently love to argue, but some of them go over and beyond just the average argument. They love to quarrel about everything. They'll argue with you about what shoe size you actually are from this to that, and oh God, it's a headache. Men don't want to deal with that. Did you know this is foreign to a lot of women? They think that men want women who are mouthy, lippy, as some people would call it.
Feisty.
They think it's an attractive quality. Oh, my man likes the fact that I talk back and I never know when to shut up.
I'm going to use a personal thing here because I've been married to 30 something odd years.
Yeah.
When I met my wife, we were still both in school. So obviously, we went through the ranks together, and I always drove her to study, to get that big job, because I was super proud. I mean, at one stage, she was the area manager for a big clothing chain store and opened plenty of branches and all the rest. And me, I was just a member of the South African police, which is one of the lowest paying jobs, and, you didn't get much respect. And then I became an apprentice, which is even worse.
Yeah.
And I loved it. I'd walk around going, my wife is, and I love that type of thing. So it's not that I'm domineering in the sense of, women belong in the kitchen, and when I get home, I want my food done.
Statistically, that's where they're actually happiest.
What, women? Is it?
So a lot of these, as one says, these sort of high-flying corporate types, as soon as they hit their mid-40s, the only place they want to be is making the children's bed at home and cooking breakfast, and that being the top of her responsibility.
Well, I can put it this way. In my house, there's certain things that I still wear the pants in.
Yeah.
But many years ago, I renegated the finances to the wife because she's good at it. I said to her, you're running the finances. I'll make the money. You run the finances.
Yeah.
The home is your home. And still to the day, I only get weekly pocket money. If I see something I like, I'll ask her, is there money for that? And she'll go yes or no.
Yeah.
And that's the end of it. But 15 years ago, sorry, our kids weren't doing too great at school, and they didn't really like the after school. And she wasn't really happy in her job. And I said to her, well, why don't you quit your job, come work for me half day, and then when school comes out, the other half of the day you spend with the kids. And she didn't like that because she was a career woman and and eventually she saw, okay, listen, it makes financial sense. Let's do it. It helped the hell out of my business. And the kids were much happier. Now my wife is 50 plus. And like you said, she is at her happiest at home. She doesn't want to go anywhere. I have to fight with her to say, listen, get in your car and go visit a friend.
Yeah.
You know, she's got to that age now for the last 12 years. She's happy at home. She walks around the garden and fixes this and does this little bit of artwork and decides this needs to be fixed, which gets carried over to me over my weekends.
Yeah.
So exactly that. You get to a stage that I think the ladies get to a stage where, you know, okay, I've done it. I've been there. I've done that. It's now time for me to be at home and have a family.
In a way, you can also understand because, I mean, women haven't been in the workplace for as long as men have. So for them, it's kind of still like a new concept in the sense that they have the choice to go to work. Whereas, I mean, probably the generation before your generation, women didn't really go to work.
No, they didn't.
It didn't happen. No. So when I say it's new, I'm not being facetious, but I mean, it's still like 30 or 40 years old new, that kind of thing.
I know. My mother was a housewife.
Okay.
Oh, heaven forbid, I just swore on air.
Okay, so that's the one thing. You never, ever, ever, under any circumstances, marry a woman or date a woman who's in her 30s, who's never been married and has no, well, actually, it's preferable she has no children. But if she hasn't been married in her 30s...
That's another pull.
Yes.
Yeah.
So according to these red pill gurus, you never, under any circumstances ever, and there's not even one exception that gets made for this, you never hook up with a woman who has a kid. Reason being, first of all, there's always going to be the bastard ex in the picture. He's always going to be there.
Yep. Interfering,
threatening you, just being a real thorn in your foot, a pain
and it also all
ass.
depends and at what age are the kids when you get involved. I mean, if they're already in their teens, you got shit.
Oh, God, yeah.
But if they're still young enough to not know, you can tell them at a later stage. But, you know, then it's fine. And I do know of a couples that got hooked up where she had children. And the children were very young, at year and a half, 2 years. And the fathers are not in a picture. Either deceased or just not in a picture. The father is unknown. So these relationships have worked because the ex is not there.
When you say unknown, do you mean that she was just fornicating with a lot of guys and she doesn't know who the dad is?
Yeah, pretty much.
My God.
It still happens.
I don't know if I'd like to be with somebody like that either.
No, you see, in my day, if any girl fell pregnant, unwed, it was scorned upon. There was a crucifixion happening in the town square, you know, so we didn't have that problem in my day.
But did things like paternity tests even exist in your day?
No.
Didn't exactly.
No.
So you had to wait for the child to grow up and see which of your features this thing had, which it didn't have.
And you look and you go like, you look nothing like your brother.
You're like nothing like me. This is not my bastard
Your
kid.
brother doesn't look like your father.
So that's one of the second big things to avoid is to say, do not ever hook up with a woman who has a kid, even if she is financially stable, because first of all, that kid is not your kid. You will have to tolerate ample shit from that kid, but because he or she is not yours, you're not allowed to discipline that child ever.
And the mother may be that kind as well to not allow you to get involved and say, nope, stay one side. Then you're an outsider. Then you're a best friend with a marriage certificate.
And then the other worst case scenario is that you marry a woman with a child. You are never going to be her priority.
No.
And for a lot of men, that's a deal breaker because they sit back and go, so I'm investing in you financially. I'm investing in you emotionally. You take up a lot of my time. You go with me everywhere we go. But yet I am actually an option to you.
Yeah.
Your child is your priority. I'm not your priority.
And that swings both ways, eh? I heard this from a lady the other day. She said to me, most girls in the change rooms, you know, wherever they have their girl talks, don't like to have a serious or get married or have a serious relationship with a bodybuilder. because their thinking is
But isn't because their dicks are small?
no.
Okay.
Their argument is that they're vain. First of
Yeah.
all, second of all, they spend so much time and effort on their bodies that they as a woman are going to come second. So it plays both ways in that sense.
For a woman, it's kind of like dating a woman. That's what it's actually like.
Yeah, pretty much.
Vain and self-absorbed.
A woman with muscles.
Exactly, it's the exact same thing.
They-
Welcome to dating. Now you know what it's like to date a woman.
Hulle sag op die oog. In Afrikaans sê hulle sag op die oog. So in other words, they are nice to look at, they're nice to hug and fondle, but you don't want to get serious with them.
No. Now, this is one where I don't quite agree with this, but it's apparently it's a known thing. You never date a woman who has nose rings.
What?
Nose rings and more than 2 earrings. So from some psychological point of view, they call it mutilation. So 2 earrings, 1 in each ear,
Yeah.
is okay. It's acceptable. But anything more is considered impulsive. It means that these people are impulsive, that they
Yeah.
will make irrational decisions at the spur of the moment, take no thought for tomorrow, that kind of mentality. And secondly, that they are mutilating their bodies, which is never a good thing. I personally, so if you're a girl, you've got a nose ring, that's okay. I don't mind that. But let it be known that it's a well-established thing that women with 2 or more earrings, and especially, God forbid, a nose ring, trouble, absolute trouble.
What about other piercings?
So, I would imagine the same thing goes. You talk about like nipple piercings and down at the South Pole. I think those would count the same as well. I would imagine that they would be equally frowned upon by those.
I think for a one night stand it'll be a turn on.
Oh yeah, but again, it's a sort of girl
but for your wife,
you take home, but not to meet your parents, not that home. So that's kind of the
I don't see it. You see, that's where I tend to agree with you on disagreeing on that one, because then I look at men as being shallow and they're not looking at the person behind it. But then again, you can also look at the psychological side of things.
Yeah, so that's what a lot of these psychologists are saying, is that the sort of people, the sort of woman who will go and put 10 earrings inside of her ear and give herself a belly ring and all these sorts of things. She's impulsive. She doesn't think about things properly. But I personally don't. I think that's a little bit too harsh. My point of view,
Yeah,
but too
I must
harsh.
also look. My wife is tattooed from her wrist right up to her neck. But those tattoos only came later in life. And if I see a young lady, very, very well built, very beautiful personality, but also covered in tattoos, looks like she was hit with a wet comic.
Yeah.
And you tend to go, she's nice. You won't look at her and go, if I was only 30 years younger. So
You see, now tattoos are an interesting thing, because these days most women actually have tattoos.
yeah, it's one of those things.
I would imagine one of a handful of people who doesn't have any tattoos. I've never been inked. I don't think I ever would, because I can't. It's a hell of a commitment to make, to put something in my body. Am I still going to like it in 10 years from now? Who knows?
No, who cares?
Yeah.
I got 2.
Yeah. So I personally don't have any tattoos. I know some people do frown upon them, and especially parents. Oh God, parents like, does she have tattoos?
I've got a tribal tattoo. How embarrassing is that? Tribals were 1990s. That was the in thing to have, and now they're blanking out their tribals.
But yours are concealed though.
Yeah.
Like, I'm looking at you now, and I can't see a single tattoo on you. So I guess that's in your upper arm.
Yeah, it's under the sleeve.
So a lot of women, like to get both arms tattooed. They'll get like a face tattoo. Also, that's another big thing. So tattoos, some people frown upon them, but face tattoos are a big no.
Oh, but face tattoos in general. I remember I was still in my DJ phase, and I wanted to have, and I got no hair. I'm as bald as they come since I was the age of 30. I wanted to have a smiley face done in the crack of the back of your head, where you would put a screwdriver if you wanted to unalive somebody.
The nape of your neck.
Yeah. I wanted to put a little smiley face there, the size of a little coin. And the tattoo artist at the time, he says, "Sorry, I don't tattoo anything above the shoulders or anything below a long sleeve cuff. So I don't do hands and I don't do heads." So for that reason.
Let's think about this. If you met a woman, okay, so let's say you're now not your age, you're 20, 30 years younger, and you met a woman who had a face tattoo,
Should be a good friend.
I mean, could you honestly? I mean, people will say, "Oh, what a shallow bastard."
Yeah.
But I could never take somebody seriously who had a face tattoo.
Yeah, I'm gonna be brutally honest on that one. Should be a very good friend, and I mean that should be a friend and a friend only.
If even a friend, I mean, you couldn't even take somebody like that home.
No, I could.
Just to meet your parents as a friend, say,
I
listen, this is my friend. Excuse this huge tattoo on its face.
I'd be that saying, hey, listen, don't judge a book by its cover. She's kind of cool, but I wouldn't want to defend my wife every 10 minutes.
Yeah,
you understand?
Kids are pointing at your wife in shopping centers, going, "What's wrong with this one?"
Yeah, exactly. I would defend a friend once in a while when she's around. But I won't want to defend my wife every 10 seconds because remember, we're still living in a reasonably conservative state in South Africa. Think about this. Would I have got the corporate position that I have today if I had put that tattoo in the back of my neck?
Oh, no.
Wouldn't
no,
have.
no.
I wouldn't have.
Chance, no.
My wife right now with her sleeve, she wouldn't get a corporate position. You just wouldn't. And that goes for all the cultures, all the many cultures of South Africa. And people looking and say, no, that's not true. We got this one that works here with a tattoo. Yeah, but I know those guys.
Yeah.
I work with guys with tattoos, and they get asked, can you please wear a long sleeve shirt? I don't mind the tattoos. That's fine. But, because if you're working with customers and you're working with other companies, when you got a meeting, just cover up,
And then also another one of these big red pill things to consider is a girl who has a bad relationship with her father. And gents, if you are much, much younger, let's say you're in your early 20s and you're listening to the show, and you want to know if it's worth your time, if it's worth your while to invest in this woman, get to know her, one of the first things is ask her about her relationship with her father.
Oh, well, just listen to her. If she badmouths her father...
a lot of
Don't
these,
go there.
I think you and I have spoken about OnlyFans before, basically where these women sell their snatches online for $3.99 a picture.
Yeah.
And a lot of these girls are displaying fatherless behavior. On the one podcast that I did, I was watching just, for a bit of research, one of these Red Pill podcasts, they had a panel of about 7 or 8 girls on there. And they said, by show of hands, how many of you come from divorced homes? And basically all of them hands go up.
Yeah.
How many of you here have a bad relationship with your father? And these girls, I hate my dad, and most of them. So they say that is the one thing, fatherless behavior, like a woman who has got a bad relationship with her father is a big red pill, a big no-no. Stay far away. Don't even go for the coffee because it's just not going to work out.
Yeah, well, I put that down to respect. If I meet a girl, and I'm going to put this out there to the youngsters now that's in looking for that, and my son is one of them, and we've had that discussion, and luckily he snaps it, is respect. If whoever you have, or is your girlfriend at the time, or your boyfriend, and that person doesn't show respect to other people in general, and especially to your parents or their parents, get rid of them quickly.
You see, here's the thing with your son. He's now 30, 31?
32.
32. He has got to be the most respectful 32-year-old, well, I say kid because I'm older than him. I'm 8 years older. He's got to be the most respectful kid that I've ever met in my life. I've never seen kids that are that age that are as polite and as well-mannered.
Well,
I mean,
thank you.
Let's be honest. Let's be honest here. The average 25 to 35-year-old these days, boy or girl, is a pig. They're mannerless. They just it's like they were raised by wolves. And I think it's one of those things that perhaps it goes back to maybe your parents gave you the same sort of upbringing where you had to have respect.
Yeah, I never hit my kids. I smacked my son maybe once or twice on the backside. Never my daughter. I've always did the whole millennial thing. I'd sit and talk to them. But the only difference is when I talk to them, I don't say, how are you feeling?
Yeah.
I tell them how I'm feeling. You understand?
Yeah.
And I don't like bad manners.
Yeah.
I don't like disrespect.
It reflects badly on the parents because everything's your entire behavior and who you are stems from your childhood.
I've got a golden saying, and I brought my kids up on these two sayings. My wife had one that she drilled into their brains, and I've got one that I drilled into their brains. Mine is always be nice. Just be nice. Nobody gets hurt. Doesn't cost you anything. Just be nice until you don't have to be. But be nice. And my wife used to drill into them, and she still does. Everything you do has a consequence,
It's true.
whether positive or negative consequence. So you make up your minds with that. Done deal.
This is the part of the show where I'd like to invite you to email gavin@gavintucker.com. If you were a guy, are you using any of these things at the moment to look for what will eventually become the mother of your child one day?
We've missed a lot as well. So if you know of one that we haven't discussed, let us know as well. And if you disagree with us, please let us know as well. We'd love to hear from you.
So one of the other ones that is a red pill thing, but I won't go too deep into it, is basically women who are too mouthy. But now, this is a contentious issue as well, because the moment you say that, a lot of women take umbrage and they go, what, so now I'm not allowed to voice my... No, you're allowed to voice your opinion. Just know when to pipe down.
Yeah, and know when your opinion is not the right opinion.
And if you're dating the girl...
Same for the guy.
If you're dating the girl who, when you go to the pub, she's the one who the bouncers have to throw out every time because she makes a hell of... That's not the girl to marry.
That's disrespectful.
That's disrespectful. She's loud. She's mouthy. She's only going to get you into trouble eventually. You steer clear.
And you're going to have to apologize for her everywhere you go.
After you get beaten up, that is.
Yes.
So, Gavin@gavintucker.com, what do you think about the red pill? So, ladies, I know it's something that you guys aren't fond of because it basically highlights a lot of things about you which you're not happy about. And it also shines a spotlight on you because, if you are a woman who is tattooed, it makes you look bad. Face tattoos, ditto. Lots of piercings, ditto. Fatherless, grew up without a father or a bad relationship with your father. It reflects poorly on you. But are you able to see that there's a pattern here, that a lot of these things are not said out of jest? It's not said because guys hate women or that they're misogynistic and that they want to lambaste you in some way. These are the opinions of a lot of people who are... Of men, and also people who are medical and psychological professionals. Let that be the optimal word, the professional part. So I'd like to know, Gavin@gavintucker.com. Is that bullshit? Do you think it's rubbish?
Yeah.
You're more than welcome.
And we're going to do a show on exactly why men also can't find women and what women find as a red pill towards men.
Yeah. Here's the one thing. There's a concept called hypergamy. Are you familiar with hypergamy?
No, I'm not.
Hypergamy is a fancy word for monkey branching. And this is also kind of ingrained in female DNA. So a woman who dates a guy, let's say, he has an apartment, he drives a little, like a 3 Series BM or something. She will date that guy for 2 or 3 years. But then eventually she wants a guy who has not a 2-bedroom apartment, but now she wants a guy with a 5-bedroom house and he drives an E-Class Mercedes-Benz, for example. And it's basically the fittest and the strongest. So back in like thousands of years ago, women would go for the strongest man, and the biggest caveman, basically,
because they want the best and strongest offspring.
And yes, exactly, the best chance of survival for the offspring. These days, the best chance of survival for your offspring is marrying a guy who is well off. So it's become that thing where your cave woman would leave you 10,000 years ago for another bigger caveman. These days, you go for somebody who just makes more money, has a better social position than you do, and so on. So that's basically hypergamy, but we can jump into that in the next episode. In the meanwhile, Gavin@gavintucker.com. What do you think of Red Pill? Are you pro it? Are you against it? Or do you just not care, which is also an option? If you want to reach out to either of us, Shawn is on Facebook. He's on TikTok as well as Instagram @Shawn Deysel. And you can find me on Facebook and Instagram @Gavin Tucker, and also on email, Gavin@gavintucker.com. Have a great week. We'll chat to you soon. Ciao, ciao.